Hello everyone and welcome to part 8 of my tier list where I rank the cars that you've sent me. So if you're unfamiliar with the way this works, is the cars in this video were taken from the comments in the last video, and if you'd like to see some cars in the next video, just put them in the comments and I'll add them. So let's just get started with our first car, which is the Jeep Renegade. Now this is Jeep's attempt, or was Jeep's attempt, at entering the small crossover market that unfortunately is a bit of a boom for them at the minute. And it wasn't really very good because it didn't sell very well in America for whatever reason, but it didn't sell very well in Europe because Jeeps don't really have a particularly great reputation. They usually have a reputation for being thirsty and badly built and a bit crude. And honestly, this actually fits that description when you compare it to its rivals, which again I also don't like very much, but this in particular, not a very good car. It's better than the Duke, but that's not exactly saying much. I think I'm going to put it one step above this Ford Explorer, which I really don't like. Maybe it's that beige cladding. Our next car is the VW Scirocco R. The comment just said Scirocco, so I've just gone with my favourite one, the Scirocco R, which is basically just a Golf coupe. And being a Scirocco R, it's a Golf R coupe, and the Golf R was a fantastic hot hatchback, especially this generation. Now, the Scirocco R never got replaced like the Golf did, so it sort of was built for a bit too long, so it was a bit old-fashioned by the time it went out of production. But I don't really hold that against it. I still think it's a really good little hatchback sports car, because it's like a hatchback coupe, and almost like the Hyundai Veloster, but like a bit more sensible than that. I mean, even then it's still quite a wild-looking thing, and I do quite like it. I think putting it above this Camaro would be fine. I'm also going to move this MX-5 down a bit, because yes, I'm very indecisive. I will say that now because I've probably said it a great many times before. Anyway, the next car is the Bricklin SV1, which is a Canadian car, and their attempt at building a supercar. However, it sort of wound up the same as the DeLorean, because SV1 stands for Safety Vehicle 1, and it went about because the Canadian government wanted safer cars, and Malcolm Bricklin wanted to build a supercar, so they gave him some money, and he produced this, which unfortunately wasn't very fast, wasn't very attractive, wasn't very well built. I mean, yes, it was safe, but that's about it really. It wasn't very luxurious, it wasn't very fuel efficient, which for the time it was built wasn't really a very good idea, and it was also too expensive. You could have got an actual sports car for how much it cost, or a normal car and 3 days worth of fuel with the fuel crisis that was going on. And unlike the DeLorean, it doesn't really have the benefit of being a pop culture icon, and I think the DeLorean's a better looking car, so I think I'm going to put it here, because I mean it's not the most objectively worst thing in the world. I do have a sort of a soft spot for it, but even then it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not even that brilliant, but I don't know, I have a soft spot for it. Anyway, next car, the Chevrolet Tahoe, the original one. Now, despite my general distaste for SUVs, I do actually quite like the styling of this at this sort of era, and I think I'm going to put it in between these actually. I'm going to move the Bricklin down slightly. Yes. Next we have the modern Chevrolet Tahoe, which I really don't like, because at the end of the day I don't like modern cars very much. I don't like them at all, to be honest. They've got too many electronic beeps and bongs and things, and they're just very, very annoying, and they've not really got any soul like older cars have. I mean, even fairly standard cars, I mean, take the original Ford Focus for example. That was a normal car, but it was fun to drive and had a nice peppy little engine. The new Ford Focus doesn't really share those same qualities. I mean, it's even going out of production. I mean, I think it's gone out of production, and I could throw out so many other examples of older cars compared to their modern counterparts, and the older ones will always be a more soulful, more fun experience. And I don't know, that's also coupled with my general distaste for these big SUVs like the Tahoe, and I think I'm going to put it below this Chevrolet Tahoe that was the generation before that. So yes, the next Tahoe will probably go below this one, and so on and so forth, if I'm still doing this tier list by then. But yes. Next we have the Nissan Cube, which is quite a contradictory car because it's called the Cube and it's generally cube shaped, but it doesn't have a single sharp edge on it. It's a very rounded car, which isn't really what a cube is. It should be called the Nissan Sphere or something. But I've actually got a better idea. They shouldn't have made it at all because it's absolutely hideous. Unlike the Duke, it didn't sell very well, thankfully, but this, no. It's just such a strange looking car. I mean, the standout strange feature is that weird rear side window thing. It's just one big line of glass. It's not a pretty car. It's not a particularly noteworthy car in any other regard. I mean, the only reason it's really noteworthy is the styling, which isn't that good, and that's putting it nicely. I think I'm going to put it below this Fiat Uno. No, I'm actually going to put it above the Fisker Ocean because this is a really gobsmackingly ugly car, and also the Aston Signet's going down because that's like hideous. And again, that car's got a story of its own. Speaking of Nissans, I'm just going to go with another terrible Nissan. The Duke, which the newest Duke does improve on the looks ever so slightly. I mean, when the original looked like some badly mutated blobfish crossed with a pulsating tumour, it's not really much of an improvement. It's still absolutely disgusting, and I'm going to put it like here because it's still absolutely gopping, and most people don't seem to care because it's still selling rather well in the UK. I don't know about the rest of Europe, but I see these rather frequently, and it's very, very irritating. I never see good looking cars with this sort of frequency. It's always hideous ones. I mean, another great example is a Toyota CHR, which is also really, really hideous, but yes. Anyway, next car, the Range Rover Evoque, which is about as far from the original Land Rover as you can get. I mean, maybe the Evoque convertible is even further away, but I digress. This is like Land Rover's cheapest, smallest SUV, and it's probably one of the worst because it's really not a good looking thing. It's not a proper Land Rover because it can't really do much off-roading. It's just the sort of car that never spends a day off-road. It's a sort of car bought by people who are scared to drive on a little bit of grass, or it's bought by people who think they need a four-wheel drive car to drive on wet leaves, for example. It's just utterly ridiculous, like the fact that people are constantly buying these things because they say they need them. They don't. You just buy an estate car and be done with it. I mean, a four-wheel drive Audi A4 will be just as good on any tarmac surface because, I mean, you're not buying an Evoque to go on dirt trails and things, are you? This is a car I hate very, very much. I think it's probably fair to put it above the Explorer though, because it probably is a nicer place to be in, albeit the fact that modern cars are, in my experience, are quite cramped and small inside. At least I feel that way, but it's probably a nicer place to be than the Explorer because they've probably put actual leather into it as opposed to all the fake leather that most other cars seem to have nowadays. Next car, the Gaz M20 Pobeda Sport, which don't know that much about because actually, talking about the normal M20 Pobeda, it's a Soviet Russian car, but it's actually decent. It looks good. It wasn't completely outdated. It was inspired by 50s Americana. It's like really quite an anomaly because it was just about up-to-date car and it didn't look that bad, and that's like really, really interesting to me. I'm gonna put it above the Unimog because like it's not like all the other rubbish that they came out with. It's actually a decent car, and this I like know almost nothing about. I can see it's like a racing version, but I could only find like 2 or 3 pictures and I couldn't find anyone talking about it, so I'm just gonna assume it's like it's more like a hot rod version of that, and I don't know, that interests me very greatly. If anyone has any information on it, please put it in the comments because it would fascinate me greatly. I think I'm going to put it above this Maybach because it's not, like, I don't know that much about it, so I can't be too certain of where I'm putting it, but I think this is a fairly reasonable estimate. Anyway, next car, the Kia Sportage, the newest one, which again suffers from the problem that most car manufacturers have. They seem to want to make everything as futuristic and as digital as possible, and it really doesn't work, at least to my eyes. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that feel the same way, but this it's not good. I mean, the older Sportages were also hideous, but this one is just the same as everything else and also hideous. It's just not a good car, and I think I'm going to put it one step below the Explorer. In fact, let's grab the others, like this Nissan Qashqai, which is so utterly boring. Like, the original Qashqai is what started off the crossover craze, and yeah, it's sort of infected the roads. This one is really, really awful. We've had the misfortune to have quite a few as rental cars, and they're not nice at all. I'm going to put it below this Hennessy Velociraptor. Now, I think that's all of them. I don't know if I added any more, because oh no, wait, there's the Honda CR-V, which again, it also joins in on sort of, like, the Nissan kicked off the crossover craze, but the CR-V definitely capitalised on it. But it's not as egregious as some of its comrades, shall we say, rivals. They've all taken up arms together in a war on automotive fun. They're all just as bad as one another. I think putting it above this GMC is fair. I think that's all of them now, though. Oh no, there's this Buick, which is got a really strange front, because it doesn't stop sloping. Like, it's really, really strange proportions. I mean, maybe it's because I never see them because they're only sold in America, but I think it's really, really ugly, as are most of these cars. But it's like standout ugly. I think it's going to go below the Durango Pursuit. But yeah, that was sort of a rapid fire round of all these terrible, terrible SUVs. And there's another one, actually, the Rivian R1S, which is a lot more like a modern day Hummer, except, I mean, it is quite close to GMC Hummer EV in terms of being massive, stupid electric SUVs that probably do more that they claim to be all environmentally friendly, but likely do more damage because of the sheer weight of them. They probably emit more emissions, and they certainly damage the roads a lot further than any other cars, which means that more emissions will be spent repairing said roads. And yeah, it's just false advertising, really. And yeah, the R1S isn't great. I mean, again, this is from someone who detests electric cars for the most part. I mean, there are some I really, really love, like the Rimac, and there are some I just tolerate their existence, but I don't know. The Rivian is, again, everything wrong with modern motoring, so I think it's only fair to put it down here with the Rezvani Beast. That's not what it is. The Beast is a supercar. I've forgotten what this is called. I'll put it up on screen for you all, but yeah, I don't tend to reserve much space in my brain for these cars because they're very boring, all blend into one another, and all these 6x6 pickup trucks, they're all very stupid and blend into one another. Next car, this Nissan you might not be familiar with, because I believe they only sold it in the Middle East. You might be familiar with the nameplate it has, though. It's the Nissan Sunny, and this car was sort of responsible for Nissan being seen as a very boring car manufacturer in Britain, the nameplate that is. I mean, the GTIR notwithstanding, which is a fantastic hot hatchback. But yeah, the Sunny is a very, very boring car, and I don't have much of an experience with this because I not heard of it until until the Sunny was recommended to me in the comments. But it's not a pretty thing. Its lights are far too big. It's like they're too big for the rest of the car. They look like they've come off something bigger, like a Nissan Patrol sized thing. And it's likely going to be very boring, rattly, noisy. It's not going to be a very good car. I can just tell that from looking at it. I mean, yeah, never judge a book by its cover, but you should probably judge a car by the general shape of it. I mean, there are some plenty of very good ugly cars. I would like the Chrysler Crossfire, which I will defend. I don't actually think it looks that bad, but loads of people say it's ugly. But yeah, the Crossfire is an example of this. This, though, very, very boring looking thing. I think, but at least it's not an SUV. I think putting it, I'm going to put it above this Jeep, but below this Kia. Next car, the Jeep Wrangler, or so you think. No, it's actually the Mahindra Thar, which is Mahindra. They're an Indian company that have basically been producing fake Jeeps for as long as time began. This is another one of those, and as you might expect, it's rather terrible. It certainly deserves to go. I'm going to put it below the R1S because, I mean, I've not really got much of a problem with the Jeep Wrangler itself. It's just the fact that this is basically a knockoff of that and incredibly bad. So yes. Next we have something that is on the complete opposite end of that scale. The Koenigsegg Regera, which is one of the cleverest hypercars ever made because it has this clever trick single-speed gearbox that makes it incredibly rapid. It's got absurd levels of acceleration. I think Koenigsegg use it in the Jesko as well. But yeah, I'm not going to try and explain how it works because I'll explain it badly and incorrectly, but it's very, very fascinating. And it's just a very well-styled thing. And like all Koenigsegg's, I just happen to like it by default. I mean, with the incredible engineering that's put into it, you can't help but like it. Now, the styling, I wasn't that much of a fan of when it was new. I preferred the styling of the CCs and the Regera and the like, but it's certainly grown on me, and I think I'm going to put it above this Ferrari 458. I think that's a fair place to put it because I think it is just a phenomenally clever car. And yes, no, not this thing. This is the SsangYong Rudius, and it is in most circles of conversation widely considered to be the ugliest car ever made. And whilst I leave that space open for the Duke and more recently the Cybertruck, I can see exactly what people are talking about. The rear view is the worst, but the front's not much better. This is really, really awful, and it came from a time when South Korean cars were just as cheap and nasty as you could get. They were like for people who just really, really needed a new car, and they managed to sell a lot of them. Now most of them have gotten out of that space. They're like, especially Kia and Hyundai, they're moving up to a more premium market. SsangYong, yeah, they've not really moved. They're still in this position where they're really cheap and terrible. Except they're now expensive and terrible because there's no such thing as a cheap modern car. But, bit of a tangent, this thing is absolutely hideous. Like, what? I don't really know where to begin. The rear lights are too big, they're too low down. It's got this big unnecessary slab of bodywork above the number plate, and then the rear window just sort of feels like it's stuck on, like you know those like truckman cab things that they put on the top of pickup trucks that you can quite clearly tell that they've put them on top of pickup trucks. This, like that rear window and roof bit, I can see that, like it looks like it's been slapped on like that, and the car would look even worse if it wasn't there, but it looks like tacked on the front of it. That massive like chrome grille, it makes it look like a big, I don't know what it looks like, but it doesn't look right. But yeah, this thing, awful car. It's going just below the newest Duke, because this is just 5 of the worst looking cars ever made, and then there's the Cybertruck, which is just a bin. But yes, another hideous car for you all, the Nissan S-Cargo, which, when I say that, you might have your mind instantly brought to the French delicacy, which is actually just snails. Apparently they're not that bad. I've never tried one, and I have no wish to try one, but that was on purpose, because if you take a side view of it, it does actually look like a snail, and that's now 2 cars that are named after snails. So this 2CV Tin Snail, and this is decidedly uglier than the 2CV, which is a sentence I didn't really think I'd have to say, but yes, it's named after a snail, it looks like a snail, and yeah, it's a very snaily car. That's a terrible analogy, but yes, it's as ugly as a snail, because it looks like one. What a surprise. I think it's going to go in between the Lamborghini Lancer and this Bentley EXP thing. I'm going to move this VW up slightly, I think, and the Citroen Army down a bit. Yeah, just constant alterations to this list, that's what it's all about. Next car, the Lada Samara, which was partially developed by Porsche, if you'll believe that. It's probably also got something to do with why Porsche decided to do the C88, which is a story for another time. But yeah, the Samara, despite being partially developed with Porsche, it wasn't the same success story as the Porsche developed Audi RS2. It's still a Lada, it's still terrible, and they did actually get to sell it in Europe for a while until it was determined to be too unsafe, because it was lethal, it was a death trap, especially for the time that it was being produced around. And it's very ugly, it's very depressing, it's like very dreary. It's got no redeeming features, and I mean, except for the price, but like, why? Why would you buy this? Just to save up for something a little bit better. Like, you can do better than a Lada Samara. There are probably still loads of them lurking about in Russia anyway, because like all Ladas, I must give it the fact that it is very tough. Ladas, despite their general terribleness, they've always been very tough little cars, and very good at being just useful workhorses, but they're never ever desirable. So, where does it go though? I think I'm going to put it above the Nissan Qashqai because I despise the Qashqai, and this probably won't be reliable because all the electrics will go wrong in a couple of years, and then you'll replace it with a new Qashqai. But yes. Next car. This you've probably not heard of, and you'd probably be happy to have never heard of it. It's the Mazda Secret Hideout, and it's another one of these weird Japanese concept cars that they get revealed at a couple of motor shows, and then they're never seen or heard from again. And for this, it's probably for a very good reason, because it's very ugly. It looks like a fish. It looks like a fish on wheels, and it's not nice to look at, and I shall spare you from focusing on it any further by putting it going to put it below this Ford F650, which I've put down here because of just how ridiculous it is, and not ridiculous in a good way like a Lamborghini SCV12 is. Like, this is a perfect example of good ridiculous and bad ridiculous. But yes, now this thing is another Russian attempt at making an affordable car that's like a step up. There's like a step up from a low-powered motorbike or a bicycle, but clearly below an ordinary car. And yeah, it barely counts as a car, and it's like very, very terrible. Like, the Citroen 2CV, while as awful as that is, and I don't like it very much, it is a good example of how to make a cheap, affordable car for the masses, because at least it functioned like a car and had most of the basic qualities of a car, like enough seats, enough wheels, the space to put things. This met none of those requirements, really. Thankfully, nothing like this is really being made anymore. I mean, you could make a case that the Citroen Army is a modern version of that, but at least, to its credit, it has the correct amount of wheels, and that's all the credit it will ever get from me. Next car, the newest Porsche Panamera Turbo S E-Hybrid, which is a ludicrously fast saloon, but I don't like it that much. I didn't like the first generation Panamera because it was ugly. I liked the second generation Panamera because it was actually really good looking. Like, it was Porsche's ugly duckling, and then it did become a swan. It was like a fantastic looking car, and it still was able to tread this fine line between being luxurious and having technology, but not an overabundance of it, which was quite nice. This steps that boundary, and it's another over-techified, which isn't a word, but I'm using it, over-techified, modern, what they claim to be luxury car. Because modern luxury now is all just screens and technology instead of comfy leather and woods everywhere, which I certainly prefer. It's still a much better car than most other things, and to Porsche's credit, while it's worse than the second generation Panamera, at least to me, it's still really quite good, and I wouldn't complain about owning one. It's still a rather nice car. I think I'm going to put it one step below this Challenger, and I'm going to move this Triumph up slightly, and this MG8 and Bugatti above this Plymouth Fury. Yes. Next car, the Ford Pinto, which I'm going to assume you've already heard of. I'll just quickly recap the story for you. Ford designed the car where it had a really bad design flaw where if it was crashed into, the fuel tank would likely rupture and cause a massive fatal vehicle fire. Ford knew of this problem, but they determined that it would be cheaper to settle out all the lawsuits in court than to redesign it. This was found out, both the flaw and Ford's trying to get everyone killed instead of fixing their car, so not only were they forced to pay a hell of a lot of fines to the government and to owners, but they're also forced to recall all of the cars and fix the defect, which cost them a lot of money and damaged both Ford's reputation and the Pintos forever. Because even though most of them, I mean, even then I wouldn't hedge my bets with owning one because it's not a very good car to begin with, so I wouldn't own one to begin with, but who knows whether maybe it missed the recall or whatever. But yeah, most of them are fine enough cars now, but yeah, I say fine enough because they're still poor cars, and they lent their engine to the second generation Mustang, which is also terrible. But yeah, this thing has such a damning reputation attached to it, and which, to be fair, isn't entirely unjustified, because even without the flaw, it would be a really rather terrible car. I think I'm going to put it below this Hyundai Santa Fe just because of the fact that it's very, very dangerous. Because, again, I wouldn't want to be in one because, like, who knows? Has it actually been fixed? Has something missed it and maybe it still catches on fire because it didn't go through the recall process? Like, who knows? Anyway, next car, the Chrysler PT Cruiser convertible. Now, the PT Cruiser is also famous for being very, very ugly. When it first came out, it was actually seen as quite trendy and fashionable because what they were going for is to emulate the designs of old hot rods. But they failed at doing that quite miserably because it is very, very ugly. There was the strange fast GT version, which actually wasn't all that bad. Despite my general hate for the PT Cruiser, the GT was actually kind of decent, weirdly. But the normal one, no, not at all. Very ugly, typically badly built as you would expect from American cars, and just an altogether not pleasant ownership experience. It goes in the coveted burn it section, and I'm going to put it next to this Aston Martin Signet. Next car, the Ferrari Purosangue, which is Ferrari's first attempt at an FUV. That's so pretentious. But yeah, it's their first attempt at doing an SUV, and it replaced the wondrous GTC4 Lusso with its excellent engines and excellent styling. And to be completely honest, the engine in the Purosangue is actually quite lovely. It's a V12, and that's not my problem with it. It's the fact that it's really, really ugly. That's my problem with it, and the fact that it replaced a very, very beautiful car. And it's just a key example of this SUV craze. I mean, could you imagine Enzo Ferrari getting up one day and thinking, yes, I want to make an SUV? No, he went and made things like the F40 and the 250 and things like that. I mean, he didn't personally, but like he wouldn't have let a Purosangue go through. And this is a really, really key example, like the Lamborghini Urus, of what is wrong with modern supercar buyers. I mean, to be fair, the Urus and things, they do inject a lot of money into the companies, but most of them are owned by larger companies with loads of money anyway. I mean, if it justifies them not shutting the company down, that's probably for the best, but even then, like, Lamborghini itself is probably just one big advertising board for the rest of the company, but I digress. This isn't a car I like very much. I don't like what it stands for, but I must say it's better than a lot of these other things. I'm gonna put it with the Porsche Cayenne, to be honest. I see them in a fairly similar light. Next car. Yes, right. This is the Volga. Volga Gaz, I think, is the full name. And like the Yugo, it was so horrifically out of date. It was sold only a few years before the Lexus LS came out, and it was like a car from the 50s, which is what's modern at that time. Soviet engineering. That's all they could produce, because the engineers asked time and time again the Soviet government, because they had to ask permission from the Soviet government to update the car and make it more modern, but they were denied time and time again. So when some of them were sold in the places like the US through exporters, they were so comically out of date. I mean, if you want a good in-depth video of how simply awful it was, check out Doug DeMuro's video on it, because that was fantastic. That got a good laugh out of me. But yeah, this is just an awful car. It was so comically out of date. Like, if you compare it to cars at the time, even normal cars, I mean, I know the Lexus LS was a luxury car, it was a very advanced luxury car, but it still puts it into perspective. Like, this was only being sold a few years before the Lexus LS. It's not the fact that I'm trying to compare the two cars, it's more of a perspective thing. And yeah, this is a key example of Soviet rubbish. Although, to be fair, it's slightly better than a couple of these other cars when viewed with these other cars, but when viewed as it is, it's still terrible. Now, this next car is Russia's idea of making a Jeep, and it's like a very depressed looking Jeep. But I can't be too hard on it, because a Jeep shouldn't be luxurious or whatever. It doesn't need to be. So it probably filled the niche that it was supposed to fill, of being an equivalent to the Willys Jeep, rather well. But that doesn't mean it's any good, at least to my eyes. I think putting it here is probably acceptable, but even then, not nice. And let's get another one of these cars. Well, this is a Romanian car. It's a Dacia, the MD-87, which is by far the ugliest sports car ever produced. To my eyes, it looks like the designers were told to copy a Toyota MR2, but they only had a Toyota MR2 described to them down a very crackly phone line in their third language, and this is a result. I don't know much about the car, because honest, these like yellowy old pictures, those are the newest pictures you can find of it, and I would really like to know more information about this car, or even if any examples of it survive to this day, because as ugly as it is, I would like to see if at least one example survived. And I think I'm going to put it here, because whilst it's the ugliest sports car ever made, it's probably not as bad as some of these other things, which says a lot. I'm also going to move this up slightly. Next car, the 2017 Ford GT, which is a fantastic supercar. It's actually an improvement on the 2005 GT in most ways, despite the fact I prefer that car. I only have one problem with it. I think the back of it, I don't like the way the back of it looks. I think it looks like the pigs from Angry Birds. Tell me if I'm the only one that thinks that, but other than that, it's a really very, very good car. And I think I'm going to put it in between the No, actually, I'm going to put it one step below the Audi RS6 Avant, and I'm going to move this Gallardo above this Corvette. Yes. Yeah, I think that's a fair place to put them. I'm also going to move this Rimac down a bit, and this Bugatti Divo below this Stauer EB110 and this Koenigsegg Agera. Ah, yes. Next car, the Ford car Ka. Another one of these cars that is trying to be quirky and different, but instead of doing that, it ends up being ugly and strange. And yes, it's not a particularly joyous car to drive either. It's not a particularly fast car, and it wasn't a particularly noteworthy car in any other regard aside from its looks, which were only noteworthy because they weren't very good. So yes, I think putting it up here is fair. Next we have this, the Fiat Multipla, which is just like some sort of weird bug-eyed car from Mars. It's so completely strange, and it's so utterly hideous. Like, I don't really know how to describe it. There's not really a word in the English language to describe it aside from hideous, disgusting, gopping. There's those sorts of words, but there's no like words to constructively describe its shape. And like, at least it was different, because then they facelifted it with a completely anonymous Fiat Multipla, which actually sold worse. I mean, This does have a couple of interesting traits other than the styling, like it does actually have 3 abreast seating up front, but it's not done very well like the McLaren F1, because if you're sitting in the middle, every time the driver goes to change gear, for example, you get elbowed in the stomach. So it's amusing for the other passenger. That means the middle seat is rarely ever used because no one likes being elbowed in the stomach. And for that, as well as the styling, it goes down here, because I mean it's not like it lit the world on fire in terms of performance either. I think putting it in between this Duke and this SsangYong is acceptable. Yes. Next car, the Dongfeng, which is that's the worst name in the world, and it's also another one of these small Chinese electric cars that probably aren't built very well, and they probably aren't going to last very long. They're probably going to lose all of their range in a year or two. I mean, I can't say that for certain, but what I can say for certain is they're completely and utterly undesirable. I don't know if this has made it over to any countries other than China, but they can keep it, because it appears to be absolutely terrible, and I don't think there's really anything that you can say to change my mind other than the fact that, I don't know, maybe it has secretly 500 horsepower and weighs 450 kilos, but I doubt that very much. I think putting it below this Mercedes 6x6 is fair. Next car, the Anzom Palladium, which, in my humble opinion, the best way to take care of a Palladium is to wash it with a petrol-covered rag and then dry it with a lit match. That's the best thing you can do with it, because it looks like, I mean, it's a luxury vehicle based off a Dodge Ram to start with, and it looks like this weird caricatured Rolls-Royce pickup truck. It's utterly awful. It is the most disgusting attempt at a luxury car I have possibly ever seen. It is even worse than this Vision Maybach Ultimate Luxury. And that's saying something. It's just so badly proportioned. I don't think they've made any of them aside from this blue one, thankfully. And yes, set it on fire. Just destroy it, please. That's all it deserves. Next car, the 2005 or 2006 Ford GT, which is a car I love very greatly for all of its known flaws, like being uncomfortable, being impractical, being very unreliable, being annoying with car alarms and things, as Jeremy Clarkson will tell you, and being generally impractical and fuel inefficient. But it's a supercar. It's not meant to be sensible. You're not supposed to be able to live with it every day. That's what you have your normal cars for. Or if you have a supercar, your normal car is probably an Audi RS6, but that's beside the point. But it's supposed to be outlandish and crazy, and it was reportedly, I can't say I've enjoyed one myself, but it was like a wild thing to drive and a really enjoyable thing to drive. It was loud and raw and very, very close to the original GT40, or as close as a car from 2006 could get. And it's just a fantastic thing, really. I think putting it one step above the Koenigsegg Gira. Yes, that's where I'm going to put it. Next we have this, the ZIL, which is an actually well-made Russian car because it was a limousine, but it was like a very luxurious limousine, but that was only because it was for the heads of the Soviet party, because none of the normal people could, even if they somehow had the amount of money that you'd require to buy one, they wouldn't be able to, because it wasn't for them, it was for all the Soviet heads of state, like I said. And I mean, yeah, obviously it has those negative connotations attached to it, but there's nothing like outwardly wrong with it. I mean, I'd rather have a Mercedes Pullman, but there's nothing like too wrong with it. I think I'm going to put it up here with the Suzuki Swift Sport, because that was really quite a poor car, especially when you compare it to its previous generations with the naturally aspirated engine. Next we have the Citroën Axle 12 TRS, which is a rather subpar French hatchback, but it's certainly not as bad as the Old Cit, which as you can quite clearly see, copied that. But yeah, this isn't great. It's got nothing really special about it. It's just not a brilliant car. I think putting it... I'm going to put it here, because there's nothing noteworthy about it aside from its aside from the general fact that it is not very good. Next car, this is very good. This is a glorious feat of engineering. It is the Koenigsegg CCGT, and the story behind it was Koenigsegg, they were having a bit of an influx of money, so they went to compete at the FIA GT1 Championship, which is some of my favourite regulations for racing cars. Unfortunately, when they finished the car, the regulations changed, and Koenigsegg didn't have enough money to build a new car to meet those new regulations. And unfortunately, the CCGT never raced. So the closest it got was various track days at Koenigsegg, take them to, but it's a bit sad that it never actually raced properly, because it's a great looking thing, and I think it's probably the best looking Koenigsegg CC, except maybe the CCXR edition. But where do I put it? I think I'm going to put it below the Diablo GTR, but only just, because I see these two cars in a very similar light. They're both extreme, better looking versions of already impressive super/hypercar. But yes. Next we have just almost all terrible Soviet era cars. I mean, I say almost all because this was actually a pre-World War II car, and it looked up to date, and it didn't look that bad. There's not actually that much wrong with it. If anything, I think it actually looks kind of decent, which is very, very surprising. Unsurprisingly, it was again for high-ranking members of the party, but I don't actually remember seeing any new pictures of it, when, like a lot of these cars, when I was doing research, so it could very well have been scrapped or bombed during World War II. I mean, who knows really. But I do think it is an interesting looking thing. I'm going to put it with this other interesting convertible / speedster Russian car. This also as well, this is another old limousine. I think this is one that's also a ZIL. I'm not sure I like the way it looks though. I think I'm going to put it a bit further down because it's not a pretty car. I don't know. I just don't like that big tall grille in the centre. It's too tall and narrow. I'm not a fan of it. This is a Trabant, which this is one of the most stupid ideas of all time. It was conceived in East Germany, and it was basically made out of cardboard. And this was about the best you got over there. And by the best you got means an absolutely terrible car that was made out of cardboard, which just isn't very, very good. I mean, at least it doesn't try to impale you like this Moskvich, but yeah, it's made of cardboard. What were they thinking? Make it out of steel like everyone else did, but that apparently didn't cross their mind, so it did not. Next, this is a Tatra, which is a Czechoslovakian car, but they actually had a weird habit, Tatra. They made all their cars rear-engined and rear-wheel drive, which made them quite a handful. And they actually went for quite a while. I think they went in and survived into the 90s, but then they went under. I think they made going to make a supercar called the MTX. This is one of their more successful cars, but it's a very ugly car. Now, I certainly don't hate it as much as some of the others, because again, it's quite interesting, and it's not got that many other problems aside from the styling, but the styling isn't nice. So I think I'm gonna put it with the Citroen Axle, because yeah, it's not nicely styled. This is another one of these cars that goes down here, but it's not as bad as some of the others. It almost looks like the Pobeda, in being up to date, but it wasn't. It was not up to date. Now, and here's our final of these cars, which is not a Fiat 500. It's their attempt at seemingly copying a Fiat 500, and a very bad one at that. It looks like a Fiat 500 you'd find in the background of a cartoon or a game or something that's there to be an unlicensed version of a Fiat 500, and yeah, not very good. And unsurprisingly, it shares the same awful traits as the other cars. So I think putting it here is the best place to put it. Our final car, the Volkswagen Golf convertible. Now, the normal Golf, the first generation Golf, there's just a fairly standard car. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing particularly great about it. It was just a fairly standard car, unlike the GTI, which was one of the first hot hatchbacks and undoubtedly one of the best. But the normal one, it just was a fairly standard car. I think putting it here is the most fair place I can put it. But yes, here's the updated tier list or the most recent tier list. If you enjoyed this, I hope you leave a like and maybe subscribe to the channel so you can see more. And if you'd like to see some cars in the next video, put them in the comments. And if you want to talk about any of these cars, give me some more information, or simply discuss where they are, please do so. I'd love to see your opinions. And yes, have a great day or night or evening or wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.